learn at Ranchi. I went there about 8 years later to realize that it was true. There was nothing to learn there. And he said, you're going to have to learn this from the inside out. You're going to have to go inside to get this. He didn't say it, but basically he was saying that there are no models outwardly that you can learn from. You're going to have to come at it from an intuitive perspective. So that was a good challenge. I had a lot of help. I had help from adults in the community to come and help me. I'm going to take a second to recognize maybe all the people that have taught in this school or are currently teaching in this school or one of the other EFL schools could stand up right now and we could just kind of look and see. Way back, there's Gary hiding out in the back. Great,
he sat down.
The first of them, is Maitri here this morning? Where's Maitri? Maitri, you stand up here. Maitri was the first helper. Maitri graduated from there was a whole high school transferred here as a body, a small body, but they were here in the early years. Maitri graduated from that, and then when the school got big enough where I needed a leader, Maitri stepped in. She was the focus of one of my early lessons on learning that this wave of consciousness had the support of Divine Mother, and that I didn't really have to worry too much. It was going to happen if I just kind of relaxed and went with the flow. So Maitri taught for, I think, a whole year with me, and we were getting ready for the second year. It was like Labor Day weekend, and school started right after the weekend. And so Friday before the weekend, I get this message. It couldn't have been a phone call in those days. I can't remember how I got a message. Probably intuitive. And it just said that Swami had made plans to start a joy tour, and he had invited Maitri to leave that weekend for the next 6 weeks to go on a joy tour. So my only support at that point was disappearing from underneath me, and school started on Monday. And so I went through the usual things you would go through of, what's going on? And okay, well, what can I do about it? And I remember that this young man had talked to me earlier that week. He just arrived in the community a few days before that, and he said that he would be happy to help in the school if there was a need. So I got hold of this fellow, and he said, I need somebody to help. He said, oh yeah, I'd be happy to help. I said, can you start on Monday? And he said, sure. And it turned out to, for those of you who know Peter McDowell, Kabir, turned out to be one of the most wonderful teachers we had in the school, and just Divine Mother opening that door. And it helped a lot just to realize, okay, I don't have to worry about controlling this thing. I just have to work with those energies that flow. On the other end, I had amazing young people coming through. First, started with Prem. You want to stand up, Prem? Prem was 5 years old. Were you still 4 when you started?
1973, I guess.
1972.
72.
Yeah.
5. Yeah.
Anyway, 4 or 5. And there were six students at that point, all between the ages of 4 and 8. And I'll tell another story that's one of my classics in a second. But Prem was really the first child that really seriously started to resonate with this direction and started to help me clarify where we were going. And it's so important because you can't do it in your head. You have to have somebody out there responding to you and to know that you're going in the right direction. And by working with Prem for those early years, it was very, very helpful. He was joined within a couple of years by Sandy, who's up here going to speak today. And another one, I don't think Hara could make it today, but Hara also came along, and it was children like that. They obviously at that age they couldn't understand things intellectually, but they just vibrationally started to resonate with what became Education for Life and helped to make things unfold. So I thought I'd ask anybody who's been a student in the school here at different times to stand up and look at some of them. This includes college, by the way. Okay. One of the people that I didn't know was coming back from Europe, but Anna, if you'd stand up just especially. Anna's the only person so far to go from preschool through a bachelor's degree in an EFL system. We're going to have several different programs over this weekend. This morning we get to hear from Sandy, Mirabai, Simon, and Stephen. They've all experienced different aspects of the school, either in time or in level. Stephen being the first degree receiving student from the college, about 2 or 3 years ago now. And Simon, having graduated from the high school 5 years ago, just finished his undergraduate education at Chico State. And I have to brag for him and for the school. He was double summa cum laude. I didn't know you could have a double summa cum laude. Mirabai was all through elementary school and was in the high school for a year, and then just has gone on. I wanted her to share how her life's been affected, and Sandy was one of the pioneers back in the 70s, early 80s. So, with all that, so tonight, this afternoon we're having games activities, and all the adults are invited, but it's also for children. We have a bunch of children here from the family camp, and they're just games that have grown up over the years that have to do with education for life. Tonight we're having a kirtan, and in my mind I'm labeling it from Prem to Parkle. Prem was playing these chants back in the 70s, and Parkle was leading us more recently in this of it, and a lot of people in between. We now have it formalized as White Light, and they've gone on tour and have CDs to sell and all those kinds of things. Then tomorrow, hopefully Swami's talking in the morning. I haven't heard final say of whether that's happening or not. If he's not talking, Jyotish and Devi are talking about the school and the community as the 44th anniversary of the community this year. In the afternoon, there was a panel of teachers who experienced people who've been working in the school for many years, sharing. Gary from Palo Alto, and Irene from the high school, Carol from the college, Chandi, preschool from Seattle, and Narani from the early elementary years from here. And then tomorrow evening is a chance to see the next 40 years, the next wave of new teachers, which, thanks to the college, we have a budding wave coming. There'll be 5 people speaking, all who've gone through the college teacher training program and are either already out there teaching or almost ready to teach, and they're going to give their vision for the future. So, what were some of the key lessons? One key lesson was, for me, this is where it gets personal, one lesson was to realize that I wasn't working with little kids. That I was working with souls. And these souls had reincarnated, and they had little bodies, but that didn't mean that there wasn't powerful wisdom in there. And to the point where I can't just go in and impose my view of what should be happening. I have to work with theirs because they can teach me and they can help clarify things. So Divine Mother taught me that lesson first. This is one of my classic stories. It was very early on. I think we were still in the chicken coop, which many of you know the chicken coop. If you go down to Master's Market and you stand in that fountain out in front of the mailroom, you're standing where the sacred ground of the EFL. That's where the chicken coop was. We were only there about 5 months before we moved up to what became Aspen Building. But I was, struggling, trying to figure out what we were doing. And so one of the things that worked first was realizing that storytelling was going to work really well. It's magic. You work with children, you start telling a story. You don't even have to be a good storyteller, I found out. You just have to tell a story. And they'll listen. And so I started with the Ramayana. And so they were only, Prem was 4 or 5, the other ones were 6 or 7. And so we had vocabulary issues that we're always working with. So I got to the part of the story where Hanuman flies through the sky like a meteor going over to Sri Lanka. And I stopped at that word and I said, does anybody know what meteor means? And one of the children raised their hand and they said, a meteor is somebody that eats hamburgers.